Welcome to the Q Podcast.
Q is about conversation.
If we're really concerned about ending poverty, we've got to be more concerned about creating justice.
Our cultural products as Christians need to both defy and resonate with the culture.
And God's doing amazing things. His church is expanding, his church is growing.
It's not what's the purpose of my life, it's what is the purpose that's been assigned.
Stay curious, think well, advance good. This is Q.
I'm Gabe Lyons, and this is another edition of the Q Podcast. And today we're going to listen to a talk by Kevin Kelly. Now, Kevin is the co-founder of Wired Magazine. Many of you have enjoyed reading Wired Magazine over the many years, and he's one of their senior mavericks, somebody who goes out and writes some of their biggest stories. Oftentimes, you'll see a cover story inspired and written by Kevin Kelly. And what I love about Kevin is that his faith informs the way he thinks about technology. And he's somebody who analyzes technology, who constantly has sent the latest gadgets. They're always coming across his desk because people want him to review them. People want him to write about them. And yet, in the same way that he loves and enjoys technology, he also knows the limits of it. And in his study of technology, the talk that he gives for us today is called What Technology Wants. It's based off of his best-selling book and really helps us understand what is this relationship between technology and God. We live in a world where technology is always changing and growing and becoming, and he takes a few minutes to help us understand not just to run away from technology that maybe we don't understand or when it's not working the way that we may want it to, but to learn how to make technology better and develop it into something that can actually serve the common good. Now, Kevin's a deep thinker. He's somebody who will challenge you. I would encourage you to read his blog at kk.org, where you can read more about the way he thinks and his insights. But listen in as we hear an expert, a genius, somebody who thinks at a level many of us can't even comprehend. I know I can't. And to just enjoy the way God's gifted this man to think about technology and the way our world works.
Yeah, I want to talk about some technology that I think actually may be bigger an effect on our life than even the internet and all this other kind of stuff that we have going on right now. And that's artificial intelligence. I suggest that it's even more important because I think there's a spiritual dimension to this thing that we're making, these artificial minds. And I wanted to talk about the opportunity I think that there is for the church to take advantage of this. So the important thing to realize is that AI is already here. We can kind of see it a little bit in, Siri, talking to Siri and stuff. But what tends to happen is that when it's working, we don't call it AI, we call it something else. So it's basically anything that does not yet exist is AI, and once it exists, we call it machine learning or something like that. We are using it right now to analyze X-rays better than humans, and it's used right now in AI in legal departments to go through evidence better than a paralegal will. And of course, it flies the planes for everything but 8 to 7 minutes on a flight is being flown by an AI. And if you own a modern car, the brakes chip in your car brakes better than you do. That's why it's there. Those are all AI things, but we don't call them AI. The Watson that played Jeopardy beat the human champion of Jeopardy was an AI. And of course, recently, a one owned by Google beat the world's Go champion, something that even the AI experts did not expect to happen until another 10 years. And in the third game, when the human champion lost, he said that the move that the AI made was creative. It was genius. It was an amazing, almost superhuman-like move. And this is some painting that's painted by an AI, and the AI can actually make a Mozart-like symphony that even experts have trouble telling whether it was Mozart or not. So I want to indicate the fact that this is really all happening right now. Google has an AI that they taught how to learn to play a video game. They didn't teach it how to play a video game, which is kind of hard but already doable, but how to learn to play the video game. They showed it a video game, it watched it, it got points for doing better, and it learned how to play a video game in about a day. So that's very impressive. That's learning. That's artificial learning. Google has another service that you can give it a photograph and it will caption what's in the photograph, just like if you showed a human. In fact, it does it better than a human. They've tested humans for describing this, and this AI does it better. And it can even query. You can ask it questions. Here's a photograph. It's like, what is the lady wearing? Does she have what color is the ball? And the AI is giving you the correct answer. It actually perceives that image. This is a service that Google now sells. So you can buy the service, the AI from Google. You don't have to make it yourself. That's the important thing that's going on in this new realm, is that this AI is a utility. It's a commodity. You don't have to make it. You can just purchase it like electricity and then do what you want for your business, for your creativity, for whatever you need. So I'm suggesting that by 2026, Google will be an AI company. The major revenue will be AI that they sell to other people to do stuff with. So this is an industrialization. It's real. It's commodity. It's a business. And I would even suggest that the formula for the next 10,000 startups is very easy to predict. It's take something and add AI to it. Just like 100 years ago, 150 years ago, people took something and they electrified it. They took a pump, the electric pump out of it. They bought the electricity off of the grid. We're doing the same thing now. You find something that you can do, and you're going to purchase artificial intelligence to do something interesting, creative with it. So it's real. It's here. It's getting better very, very quickly. And where is it going to go? And I suggest that there's actually a spiritual dimension to this. One is redefining our jobs and the way in which we work and our identity in that work. And secondly, there are ethical and moral decisions about these things because they are making decisions. And thirdly, there's a theological disruption that happens when you have other things that think. And thirdly, it's redefining our own selves. So let me just go through those. For jobs, when you take an AI and put it into a body, it's a robot. This is a humanized robot, and this is 10 years, 20 years, 30 years away. This is not happening right now. A humanoid robot is very, very difficult to do. There's many issues. This is not what I'm talking about, even though there is lots of work on this. Most of the robots that we're talking about are fixed or sometimes invisible to you, but they're machines, they're things in factories or picking tomatoes. But things like driving a car are where this is happening. And so the most common occupation in America, most people don't realize, is actually driving a truck. And in 20 years, 50% of those jobs are going to be gone because they're going to be auto-driven, particularly long-haul highway things. It's very easy to do with an AI. So that's a loss of a lot of jobs. It's going to be a huge disruption there. But robots actually make new jobs faster than they are taking away the old jobs. If 150 years ago, 70% of the population in America were farmers. Now only 1%. So technology took away all those jobs from the farmers, but it actually created an entirely new set of jobs, like web designer, personal coach, tax accountant, all these kinds of things, which would have made no sense to any farmer 150 years ago. They just would not comprehend the kind of jobs that we have today for even men, or some of the people in this room. So anywhere where there's a specification for productivity, those are the jobs that are going to go to the robots, including white-collar jobs. If you can specify your job as being productive or efficient, efficiency and productivity are for robots. What humans are really good at is things that require or seem to spend wastage, like science, where you have failure. Science is not efficient. Being creative is not efficient. Making a movie is not efficient. It's very inefficient in many ways. There's lots of trials and things that don't work. You don't judge things by how many minutes per year you're producing. It's a different kind of a standard for what's good. So those are the kinds of jobs that we are going to be liberated to do as the automation and robots and bots do more of the things that are measured by productivity. And I think those humans, we'll work with these. They aren't going to, it's not us versus machines, it's us with the machines. And so doctors are learning how to use the AI to help them diagnose diseases. So it's not, the patient doesn't deal with the AI. That's really difficult to do. They deal with the doctor who works with the AI. And so those professions that can actually learn to work with the AI are the ones that are going to be most valued. We tend to think of IQ, of intelligence, as this sort of single dimension that runs from little animals to bigger animals to someone who's not very smart to a genius. But this is not true. This is not a very good picture of intelligence. Intelligence is much more like a bunch of different intelligences in our brain. We have maybe hundreds of them. Spatial intelligence, mathematical intelligence, emotional intelligence. And this whole suite of different kinds of intelligence, of which there are different strengths, are what make up our own intelligence. It's a multidimensional factor. An animal is very similar in that they have their own intelligences, and in some cases, their particular kind of intelligence, that's a sub-intelligence, is smarter than humans. But overall, they generally have, let's say, spatial intelligence or navigation ability. But overall, some of the other kinds of reasoning, deduction, are much less than ours. But what we're going to do with the machines is actually, like animals, make and engineer other kinds of intelligence suites, assembles, some of which are going to be much more powerful than ours, and the rest of it will be less. And so we want to think of AI as artificial smartness rather than intelligence. Maybe that's a little easier for us to think about, where your calculator is already smarter than you are in arithmetic, and your GPS is smarter than you are in navigation, and Google search, of course, is much smarter than you are in recollection. Those are all very narrow types of smartness, and that's mostly what this kind of AI is going to be. Another way to think about this is that we're going to make up many kinds of minds, many types of thinking. We'll engineer different ones. And that's the main reason, actually, to make AI, is to make it think differently. The whole point of having a Google self-driven car is because it's not driving like a human. It's not human-like intelligence. It isn't distracted. It isn't worrying about whether it left the stove on or not. It's just driving. And so we might advertising to be conscious-free. It's not going to be worried about whether it really should have majored in finance as it goes along. It's going to just drive. So it's thinking different. That's the whole value of these intelligences. And there may be certain scientific ideas that we actually require other kinds of intelligences to help us solve. We also tend to think of these four elements of our own minds sometimes as being the same thing. We talk about them: mind, consciousness, soul, spirit. But they are probably four very, very different things, and maybe there are even more of them in us. And so we can actually imagine making artificial minds that maybe have a mind but no consciousness, or maybe consciousness but no soul, soul but no mind, many different varieties of those. We don't know what they mean, but we do know that there are continuums. They're not just binary. They're not just there or not there. We also know that we can program emotion into robots. It's not difficult to make them emotional. Animals are emotional. Your dog is emotional. That's not just a prerequisite for humans. It's actually something that's very common, and we can put into robots. So primitive emotions are actually very useful, and we will put them into robots, including pain. Pain is a really very valuable thing in animal kingdom because you don't want to run on a broken leg. Your system is telling you do not do that. That's the same thing we'll put into these machines and these systems, is to prevent them from harming themselves further. So we have ethics. That self-driving car from Google, there's a team right now that's trying to teach it ethics about the famous trolley problem. If you have to decide, if you have to hit somebody here, or the pedestrian, or four people over here, what do you do? And they have to decide that now. We give ourselves a pass as human drivers. We're not very good at this. But should the passenger first have priority? There will be cars sold so that the passenger will be protected first before the pedestrians. Is that ethical? Is that good? There's Asimov's 3 rules of robotics, which is trying to teach robots from right from wrong. That's the kind of thing, it's a program, you can see it's a programmatic. That's the thing that we're doing with robots now. We're beginning to teach them. When you have an OS system, what are the beliefs and the character of that? That's very, very important. That's what we're having to decide. It makes a difference. And so Elon Musk had an open letter aimed at AI researchers, trying to get them to agree to truly use these for AI for good and not to weaponize them. But in fact, that's also happening right now as well. As you know, that there are drones that are right now, there's a human, usually in Nevada, who's steering these, but there actually are programs right now to take the kill decision away and make it automatic into the AI. Do we want to do that? Who's thinking about that? Are Christians even in this conversation? So we tend to think of these as just machines. These are some of the machines the military is actually making some robots, but we kind of cringe when we see someone kicking them. Why are we cringing? They're just machines, right? So are we going to be comfortable with having things that having a little bit of awareness, maybe like a dog or maybe more, having some kind of intelligence, but having them as our slaves? Are we going to be comfortable with that? Is it just machines, or is this okay? So this is a robot that actually has learned to plug themselves in. And are we going to have a ritual to turn them off? So I think I can imagine a time when a robot says, I have a soul. I am conscious. What do we say to them? What do we say to them? Okay? In the Battlestar Galactica, the cool thing about the Cylons is that they actually are more religious than the humans. They have stronger belief than the humans, and so will robots glorify God? I think this leads us into this kind of theological disruption, because the more AI is being used, the smarter it gets. There's a network effects, and AI will actually be used to make better AI, and you have this sort of auto-enhancing AI. There's talk of the singularity, the rapture of the nerves, where the AI makes the AI smarter and smarter until it suddenly is so smart it seems like God to us, or it makes us immortal. That's the version. I don't believe in that super intelligence. But we are making a kind of a nervous system around the globe and connecting all these machines together in our own 7 billion people. So there is kind of one very large machine which does have a sense of it thinking thoughts that we are not aware of. And if you think of the deep huddle, this is an image of about the size of your thumbnail in the sky, and it's really completely dark, but they took a picture of that, and in each of those up there is actually a galaxy. And there's a million of these around the space, but there's a galaxy. There's a million galaxies in there. Obviously, I think it's likely that there's, in those million galaxies, a billion galaxies, other beings. And if we made contact with one of them, that would be a huge theological disruption, because they would have some beliefs. And in fact, in that movie, The Contact, it was one of the few movies where there was a theologian as one of the stars. And so I don't think there's any likelihood that we'll discover contact in the next 20 years, but we are going to make an alien intelligence with AI on this planet. And it's going to have the same kind of disruption as having contact from an alien being outside. I think Christianity has a lot to offer in thinking about AI. Imagine, because if you really believe that we are made in the image of the Creator made us as beings with free will and consciousness, we are going to do the same thing. We are going to make beings with free will and consciousness, because we are in the image of the Creator. We are creators. And so these will be our mind children. We're already making our own children. We have mind children. And the question is like, we're not going to engineer our own children, but we will engineer our mind children to do different kinds of things. They will define us, just like our children define us. The things that we're making with minds are going to define us. I'm suggesting that we make a catechism for robots. And I take that very seriously. I really think that we have to. Who made you? Where were you? What happens at the end? The last thing I want to talk about is their identity, because I think it's changing our own identity of who we think we are. Every time one of these things happen, one time the robots do something that we thought only we could do, it changes who we thought we are. Okay? I think we're going to be in a permanent human identity crisis. But I think the real purpose of AI is actually to help us become better humans, because we won't have to do many things that we thought we had to do, and because, like our children, to help us become better. I think this is a great opportunity to help us form their morality, help us to prepare for the job shift that's going to be coming, to avoid enslavement of these things, and to tell a new story about ourselves. Thank you for your attention.
I want to invite you to continue this conversation in person by being a part of Q Commons taking place on Thursday evening, October 13th, in communities throughout America. On this particular evening, we're bringing together key voices to help you know how to engage our divided nation. We're going to have Dr. Ravi Zacharias talking about our divided moment and what does faithfulness look like in the middle of that. We're going to also have Grammy Award-winning artist Lecrae talking about race in America. And finally, Kirsten Powers and Ross Douthit, two political commentators, talking about the upcoming presidential election and how should Christians think about voting. It's sure to be an evening that's going to help you think well about what it means to bring hope and leadership to your communities at a time where divisiveness is ruling the day. So join us by learning more at qcommons.com. Find the city near you, and if you don't see one in your community, host it at your church. You can learn more at qcommons.com/private simulcast. Well, I hope you were challenged and inspired, and your mind started to expand as you listened to Kevin describe some of these concepts. There's so much we can learn from him. I remember writing in a chapter in the book, The Next Christians, about his own personal habits of managing technology, how intentional he is. Even though he understands all this technology and how much it can help us, he actually puts practices in his life that help form him so that he really values in-person conversation and being totally present and focused. He's a good man. There's much we can learn from him. But in general, I hope it just inspires you as you consider the field you've been called to, the place where you're trying to play out learning and understanding and educating others about God's good world, and that you take inspiration from this talk as you head into the place you've been called today. You can watch this talk at qideas.org, and we look forward to continuing this learning and conversation with you in the episodes ahead.